All right, Lunenburg Water District Commissioners Meeting, March 27th, 2024, 4:03. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item we have is approved minutes of March 13th and March 18th. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from March 13th and March 18th.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was quick. Thanks. Review and sign warrants. Done. Review and vote on the draft water district master plan. And that should be the PFAS master plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we had the presentation on the 18th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our questions answered then, and we've had a chance to review what they're proposing and their recommendations.
They be?
So Time Bond, the engineer that we hired to do the master plan, part of the master plan was funded through some of the ARPA funding. Seeing that PFAS is such an emerging issue, we wanted to look at the system totally and the effects that PFAS would have on the system and what would be the best way to treat it. And the presentation went over a number of options for treatment, and I believe settled on, as far as the whole system goes, a recommended course of action for treatment for PFAS for the entire water system.
Good.
So, any input or
I mean,
so?
You know, obviously, we sat through this presentation, and I asked all the questions I had to ask. I think it's a very well drawn-up plan for us to take the approach to basically rid ourselves of PFAS for all water sources in the entire system in Lunenburg. It is gonna be a cost, but it's going forward. I believe now is probably the best time to tackle it.
Yeah, and I think they looked at a lot of things that had evolved for concerns,
Mhm.
either from outside sources. We listened to a lot of those concerns, conveyed those to the engineering firm, and I thought Lou and Tom did a great job putting together something that was fairly comprehensive and ended up being the most economical.
Right, I think they went through a lot of different, courses of actions that, we could do this one way, do this the other way, new source, the whole 9 yards of it, they covered quite well, and the costs involved, and I believe that this plan is probably the most efficient way to go about this. So, I'm very much in favor of it.
So when this first, the rumors started coming up with the action they were looking to take, I kind of thought they were crazy. It didn't make any sense, but then when they started running through the numbers of, another treatment plan versus combining one, then the cost of laying in the water main, and then the future cost of the maintenance of the system. Once they went through all that, it makes sense of, the way they presented it.
Yeah, and the similarities, so to tie, for people that don't know, the master plan is tying treatment of 2 separate well sites into one location that have similar issues. So the idea of tying Hickory Hills into a treatment plant at Lancaster Ave, which has similar water quality issues, made perfect sense. One plant, one place to maintain. I think they said there'd be a savings in long-term maintenance costs.
Correct.
It does seem a lot to run a transmission main all on that distance. but it's actually cheaper to do that than to build two plants.
I think the other thing too is it also gives us some more redundancy if for some reason one of those, well, I guess it would be 5 sources, we have basically, correct, 5 wells that are gonna be tied into this one treatment plant.
Correct.
At any one point, if for some reason one of those wells go down, well, pump breaks, I mean, it could be just a number of different things. We're still able to treat the other wells, treat the PFAS, and put the clean water out to the system. So I really like the idea of doing that. It doesn't, you know, something happens, everything's down, we still can keep going.
The other aspect of it that works, that I like, is, you know, when I first started, Fran talked about a balanced approach, a little bit of water here, a little bit of water there, a little bit of water there. Well, there's one, I guess there's one main aquifer, forgive me if I'm wrong, but there are basically sub,
So we're in the National River Basin. Yeah, and
basin,
then
but
there's
there are,
sub-basins.
so the aquifer that feeds Keating, also feeds Lancaster Ave, and goes into Lake Shirley. Is that correct and kind of?
Correct, I mean, they're in the Cataclysmic Basin. Yeah.
Right. And the Hickory Hills well is in a separate basin, which would give us kind of a balance. We're grabbing from this basin, and back and forth, and you know, I think I like the idea of a balanced approach and redundancy, and having to make sure that for the future that the system is.
I think also the other thing important to talk about is, of the 3 well sites we have in town, by tying these 2 together, it's 1.7 million gallons a day, correct? Versus the other Keating's one's 1.4. So it's a good balance there, Rob. We're not just doing little. This is like almost half and half. So for some reason, if, you know, Keating's source went down, we still, by these 2, would be able to function. And like I said, it gives us a good strategic plan. I like it.
I would, if the board has no other comments, I would entertain if anybody had a comment specific to the PFAS master plan. I would open it up.
Absolutely.
I'll go clockwise. Mr. Rogers.
I think what you described on the surface makes some sense. The concern I had when you were going through this is that you're putting almost all your eggs in one basket. But what you just said about 2 sources relieves that concern I had, because I don't ever like to sole source things because of the obvious reasons. That's how I feel about it. And, did they talk about, or are you gonna talk about the financial aspects of things?
We are working on that. Obviously, it's a part of all of this.
Sure,
There are some moving targets that we're working with.
sure.
But as we have the information, I believe we're gonna review that. Are we gonna review any of that tonight, or is that gonna be?
I mean, we can do it under my comments, because a lot of the stuff just came in yesterday, so.
Okay, so yeah, if we wanted to, we have done some loan comparisons, some financial comparisons using SRF, not using SRF. Interest rate comparisons, what we would pay if we did it conventional financing versus the SRF, which is the state revolving fund, that we are on their current intended use plan. And there's an update, I believe, that we're gonna get tonight on that. So it'll probably fall under the superintendent's additions, but we will touch on that. And I'm sorry, I do know everybody in the room. When I call you out, you still probably should state your name and where you're from.
Yeah.
So that we
I'm
can do
Dave
it.
McDonald.
Well, Dave, you're looking pretty good.
Thanks, yeah.
So,
I mean, we could touch a little bit on those numbers if you want, right?
why don't we see what the public comment is, and then, yeah, if it's part of this, so it has bearing, so yeah, we could definitely get into that. Just first go with the public comment.
Hi, Joan Pease, 11 Leonard Green Court. I assume, Mark, and I need some clarification, when you say vote for the plan, you're saying vote for the 3rd option in the plan.
We are, yeah, I believe we're voting to use that as a guideline and follow that course of action that the plan details out.
So
Which
take,
would-
you're going to follow option 3.
The goal, I believe, and we could clarify that when we vote on it, would be to follow a specific option.
Okay, thank you.
I guess we could vote on it that way.
Yes.
And then.
Otherwise,
detail out
if the
option.
plan has 3 options and
Correct.
we still don't.
It did have a few different options. The recommended option is the third option that you're talking about.
Right.
Which I started to allude to, one treatment plant for 2
Right.
sources, one treatment plant for another, so.
And I would like to say that I feel that this process has evolved over time and that option 3 is obviously much more positively received for many reasons, because obviously the location's not in the watershed, and I did speak to Littleton, and they did the same thing in Littleton. They took 2 different water treatment plants, the man over there, Jeffrey, he said they took 2 different water treatment plants, and they found that the long-term costs are cheaper if you run one water main for 2 different treatment plants, because maintaining these PFAS treatment plants is very expensive, because they have to be air-conditioned in the summer. He said they have to be maintained 60 degrees year-round and heated in the winter. So, you know, I feel really positive about the fact that it's not in a watershed, it's not on the shore of a lake, it's not in a densely populated area, and it's obviously more economical than 3 plants. So those are all giant pluses that I think everybody can live with.
Great.
And I have another comment that I'd like to reserve for public comment at the end, if there is public comment at the end.
Yes, we do have public comment at the, we will have it at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Yep, great, thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay, yeah, we can dive into, I believe, is this what you wanted to go?
Those are the old ones.
These are the old ones, we don't want the
No,
old ones,
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, so you have an update, we had a loan comparison done that we did bond, conventional borrowing versus SRF. There's been a recent update on the SRF, and I'll leave it to Fred.
So, I keep hearing, so, there's a final intended use plan. The last one we received, I think it was in December,
Yes.
was a draft, okay? So I just received this on March 26th, and that's the final intended use plan. And that's the approved list from DEP that's gonna require the funding.
That's the old
So, so
I
Lunenburg
don't have one in
is on that list for 14.9 million.
Oh.
So reading through that, the wording kinda changed a little bit, where the other one was, 100%, you were getting a 0% loan. This one says you're guaranteed a 2% loan, eligible for 0%. So it's not defined exactly that we're gonna get 0 interest loan. So it could be a 2%, from what I hear, is, because it's a PFAS, treatment facility, you will get a 0%. But this is all, you don't know until you actually go into the loan process. So no matter what, a 2% is still way better than the bond. We looked up the bond rates, they were, 4% for a 20-year, and the consultant said 4.25 years for a 30-year. So I did all kinds of financial calculations on a 30-year, and I've been hearing that you can do a 30-year loan for this. This says a 20-year loan as the standard loan, so it doesn't say you can't get a 30-year. So there's too many open ends to this thing that not defined, like the principal forgiveness. There's a minimum 6.6%, and then they have a disadvantaged community gets a much larger percentage. And I think some of those were like 28%. So I always thought we were not disadvantaged community because they go by the salaries and stuff, the median income. But we're flagged on there as a disadvantaged community. So the good news is we're approved for the funding. The actual final details of what the funding will be isn't defined exactly. But no matter what, it's better than going for a bond or some, regular financial.
It makes good sense.
And the goal is to possibly be able to try to increase the funding to include more of the project and realize even more savings, because this is, I mean, it's, what would their estimate, it was in a report.
So basically, when we first went for the funding for the Hickory Hills only plan, we went for $14.9 million, which we got approved for, okay? We're on this. the list.
Intended use plan.
Intended use plan.
Yeah.
With this, the new plan that we would like to try to do, which is incorporating the two to the Lancaster Ave, the estimate would be 32 million to do the plan that we'd like to do. So we are going to try to up that 4.9 million, which
Correct.
we're applying to do. This is all, you know, we don't have anything finalized, but those are some of the numbers, if that's what you look for. Am I answering
Correct.
your
So-
question?
Yeah.
So because the Hickory Hills treatment will be located at the Lancaster Ave wells, Ty and Bond has already been in communication with DEP to tie it to make one treatment facility. So DEP's in favor of, you know, doing what they can to modify the loan amount to encompass the Lancaster Ave wells also. We did get some lab results from the Lancaster Ave wells. Well number 5, the highest producing well on Lancaster Ave, came back with a PFOA level of 6.1
Yeah,
So,
so it's still below the allowable right now.
right now. But the 4, the max, the new regulations is gonna be 4, so
Right.
it's gonna exceed that, so.
Yeah.
So anyways, so we're on DEP's list, because DEP, EPA does samples for us, and the EPA responds, they don't talk to us, they talk to Mass DEP, and we get letters from Mass DEP that, you know, 2 of your sources are failing the new regulation, you know, telling us that we need to start taking action, so, and which is what we're doing, so.
Can I ask another question or two?
Yep.
Well, are we, any questions on the money, I guess,
So-
while we're on
That's-
that?
that's-
Okay.
So, we're looking at a substantial, by using the SRF, we're looking at a substantial savings over conventional funding. When we look at conventional to SRF, I don't think I'm wrong in saying we're somewhere hovering 40+% savings. Especially when we can get to 0%.
Did
Well, you
say?
think of, if we
Back
get
to Dave.
0%,
It's not.
And you meld it.
and then you're not paying any interest. Well, 4.5% on 32 million, that's still a ton of dough over time.
For you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, I mean, this was our first, we haven't been able to
This is not,
update
we
this.
need to update this a little bit more, but this is.
Right,
rough
so
numbers.
if you want, Fran, if you can maybe try to walk us through this. This is just a draft of when, if we in fact get 0%.
Right, so if we did,
These are just some rough numbers you
Can I ask a clarifying question right now, before I get totally confused? Is this based on 0% interest, this piece of
This
paper, or
has-
2%
This
interest?
has,
This
this is,
was on 0. This is-
Zero.
We did this a couple
we
weeks ago.
did this before Fran
Understand.
got the notification, or Fran did this before he got the notification that the possibility that we're guaranteed for 2% could be 0, and there was still principal forgiveness even at the 2%.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's mandatory, yes.
And there was so there was a minimum principal forgiveness that we would get and still be eligible for more, but he based it on the minimums before this 2% thing came around.
Thank you, and I have
So
a-
this is semi-accurate.
It's a little low, basically. If it's based on 0% and it's 2%, it'd be a smidge higher.
But at the
Correct.
same time, it's also based on 6% principal forgiveness, and in the new IUP, it talks about doubling that. So that's
I
why.
know,
you-
but I did read the new IUP, and it said, because it's online now, and it is online, yeah, and it said that none of that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
No, it is.
None of it is
That's
guaranteed.
why we
Principal
even-
forgiveness
yeah.
is
No,
not guaranteed.
So,
I
principal
think
forgiveness is, if
There was
you
a
read-
certain amount of it
Yeah.
that was mandatory, because
Yeah.
someone came from the government through that bipartisan.
Yep.
And that was mandatory that had to be given to, like a
Small.
certain percentage of small water
Small
systems.
and we're considered a small water system.
And they were doubling that from the 6 to the 12.
One second question. Is there any move to apply for SRF funding for the Lancaster well?
We can, but is there not any, because it
We
doesn't.
can't yet.
Right now, it's not
Well, but
below the
in about
allowable.
3 months, you will be.
Yeah, so
Right.
yes, we can.
We can,
I mean,
but
because we're
when
gonna apply.
right now, with 20 parts per million, it affects a small group of
I know.
water supplies. When you drop it to 4 parts, the group of water supplies that it affects and the amount of people goes to this.
That's true.
So, and they only have so much funding, so
The
I.
funding, I think the
I don't
funding's
see
gonna
it
be
be-
huge.
I
The
don't,
funding's
I
gonna
don't think it's gonna be as good as we are seeing now down the road when they lower it, because there's gonna be more people applying. And, I think it's gonna be more difficult to get.
I would hope you
the
would still
deals we're
apply.
getting.
I would
Oh,
hope
we
you
would definitely still
I would
apply.
hope- Because I do believe you will get more money, but.
Well, I
that's-
guess in theory, that's basically kind of the, by going with this, Plan 3 approach, that's what we're
We're trying to
doing.
get ahead of it.
We are trying to basically, we've been approved already for the 14.9, we are going to request more. Because we're tying these things all in together, it kind of like, it looks good, you know what I'm saying?
And it's because we're tying in the Hickory well because it is above the allowable
Right.
limit right now.
Right, I
It
understand.
allows us to do all.
But I'm talking about a second full-blown application.
Oh, yeah.
For next year.
We are submitting one for Keating's well. The Lancaster Ave one, we're under the assumption we're gonna tie it to the Hickory Hills.
But you-
If it's not, then we will.
But even if it's tied, you can apply for more SRF funds for that well.
And that's what we are doing,
You
basically.
can apply based for the Lancaster wellhead money to treat that well.
But we're basically taking this 14.9. that
And
we're
changing it to
And we're
32.
changing it to 32.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
And staying at what we feel is going to be the best rate
Yeah.
we're gonna get and the best.
You are correct, Joe.
Best.
All this is
Yeah.
hopeful, and this is our best foot forward. What they come back is, what they come back with. This is what
Yeah.
we are going to try to do.
Yeah.
So on the loans, if you look at the middle section, treatment plant for Hickory Hills and Lancaster, the two middle columns, one is with a 4.25% interest rate, 30-year bond. And that's why, the SRF says, it could be a 20-year term, so, I mean, we would have to really redo these numbers. But yearly payment, if you did that 30-year bond, yearly payment would be 1.9 million, and total interest for that 30-year would be 25 million. So the total cost loan is 58 million. And then if you go down to the next column, you have the 0% loan, so 32.2 million, and then I did the 6% principal forgiveness off of that. And so the yearly payment is 1.073, and so in the 0%, so your total loan is so 30 million with the principal forgiveness versus the 32. So you're probably saving $850,000 a year just in the yearly payment.
I look at this thing a little differently. And let me tell you why and how I look at it. The 14 million is very important, okay? But the 18 million, the delta, the difference, to come to the 32 or whatever it is the key factor. Because if that's at current rates, and if you don't get a substantial reduction, that's not affordable. I don't know how the hell you do it, right? And there's nothing worse than getting into a situation where the initial looks good, but then in order to complete the plan, you have to find debt service sufficient enough to pay for the last end, so-called. So from my standpoint, the key to it is the back end, not the front end, because 2% is chump change in the scope of things. So I would strongly suggest that we cover that base and cover it adequately. Otherwise, we get into a situation that we got our backs against the wall. Follow?
I agree 1,000%. We are adamantly trying to tie this all in together
Sure.
and do that. But our backs are really going to be up against the wall if we get none of this. And in 2 years, we're forced to do this at a different.
Sure.
So that's.
And that's a good point. So let's, for the sake of conversation, go into a Plan B. And I would strongly recommend that we get Congresswoman Trahan here, because she's moving up the ladder. And I think there's got to be federal money for this. There's got to be.
That's what this is.
It's
That's what
tied
it
in.
is.
State revolving fund.
No,
No,
the federal's kicked into this too.
Mhm.
And that's one of the downsides. It was 2026 that federal money is going away. They did it over a 4-year plan.
Okay,
That's
well,
correct.
how much is federal land? Excuse
Federal
me,
money?
It-
It was like,
I highlighted stuff in there, I don't know the exact numbers,
I
but
think the
federal,
total's like 500 million that
Yeah,
they're
it's
giving out this
huge.
year.
It's huge.
but in 2 years,
It's-
so if we don't take this now, in 2 years, that federal money is gone. So you were talking about when everybody goes for funding, well,
Gotcha.
now you got 500 million less from federal funding,
Okay.
plus you got a ton more people going for it, so.
Sure.
there's
So,
less.
so from a strategic standpoint, by virtue of the fact that we have been accepted for the SRF, and we sign up for that, does that put us in the queue for the extra money that the Fed has?
I think there's a portion of that, that's the principal forgiveness part, isn't it?
The federal part is tied, they contribute to the SRF program, because a lot of money goes to the state for that. But there's another section for the principal forgiveness part, and it's,
Right.
So to maybe answer your question, Dave, because I kind of had maybe something similar to you, I was asking, originally, this was a list here that we got the 14.9, there's a whole list of
There's more.
towns in front of us, but we
Sure.
made the cut, okay, great. So my question was like, hey, if we try to go for more, do we get knocked off this list? The
Yeah.
answer is
No.
no, you're still good, and
Right.
we're just gonna try to up it.
So-
So it was my understanding from Blue with Time Bond, when you guys decide to vote, yes, this is what we wanna do, they immediately send a letter to DEP that says we're going from 14.9 to 32. That keeps us at the 14.9, and they'll see, because they keep funds extra, they'll see if we'll get any of that funds included in that 14.9, or we sit there and say the 18 million automatically goes on to next year's application, and you then have your 14.9 plus 18 million for
Gotcha.
next year. But we
Alright.
wanna do these numbers in the 2-year time frame because
Yeah.
federal, we're gonna
And
lose
in
all
order
of
to
that.
get to the second part, you gotta do the first part.
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to have the first part
Yeah.
approved in order to do the second part. But they wanna give DEP the heads up as soon as possible that this is what Lunenburg wants to do.
Absolutely.
Whether or not you can give us the additional 18 now, or 18 will be guaranteed for the following year.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a wise guy with this thing, but it's important for the 14 to get us in the queue, so-called, and to get us in ready to go. But if we don't have access to the other funds, the 18 million, we're sucking pond water, because we don't know what to do. So, as a backup, you know, they haven't kicked in from my standpoint, what Triple M is gonna have to pay and that whole thing. So I think there'll be more money coming down, okay, but this is absolutely the best way to do it, what you're doing.
So Fran got us on the front end, Fran and Christie got us on the front end of class act litigation funding. It was litigation against 3M and the companies that produce this.
We got an update for that to come
So
too.
we, they got ahead of it and put the district in that.
Yeah.
So that's another source of funding that we are, when they decide how much we're gonna receive.
They've decided that they're liable, they haven't come up with any numbers yet, so we should see some money from that. Yeah, do I think it's gonna be enough to cover? No.
You might as,
It's
you might as
like
well
2
do
million.
it, you might as
Yeah.
well do your
Yeah.
update now, because we just talked with them about
yeah,
it.
Darren and Bud is the lawsuit, the firm that's tied to the lawsuits against DuPont and 3M. And we just had a Zoom meeting with them yesterday. And there was a 30-day, the judgment was made against them. So there was like a 30-day hold
Appeals.
for possible appeals, and they appealed.
Of course they appeal.
And,
They
no,
won't-
No,
they-
he said somebody did,
But it was,
someone in the class action, one
Yeah.
group tried to appeal it or something.
anyway, so
Yeah.
they did an appeal, so that held the whole process up.
Yeah,
And then they says it was a joke. The appeal is nothing to even be considered. So he thinks the judge is just gonna throw it out.
Yeah.
And he says then you go back to you gotta wait 60 days, and then once the 60 days are up, then we file our actual claim, which we submitted all the pumping data, and it wasn't actual true pumping data. It was what true possible pumping, what that well could possibly pump, because they went for a maximum amount of money for us. He's not sure he can have our number increased, but we're looking around $2 million.
chump change.
convey the,
Right, and
convey the 30.
and to
you know,
be
40.
honest, you know, we are aware, but we really haven't looked at what the actual cost of maintaining these facilities when we get them up and running
Right.
are. So, you know, that might be a funding source for that to help.
And I
Balance the
don't
rates.
mean to be cavalier about $2 million. It's a lot of money, but in the scope of things and the magnitude of this just isn't in Massachusetts. This is throughout the United States.
Yeah, I think it was
And-
billions.
Huh?
I think they were sued for billions.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, DuPont, I don't have to tell you about them, they get more money than God. And Triple M, the same thing, so, you know, that's one of those things that'll come down the pike. But we, from my standpoint, would be well-served if we got all of the people in line. And if for no other reason than to get Trahan out here and say, we want you to be aware of this because we know how active you are and we need all the help we can get.
I've spoken to her a
Yep.
few times.
Okay.
And every time I do, she passes me to Mass DEP. They're in charge of the SRF program, she has no control of
Okay,
it. So she passes me them, but I've talked to her, not
Yeah.
her, her aide,
yeah,
spoken to her.
good. So,
And on the good side too, on the, Barron and Bud notified us that, anything that we've spent money on for, PFAS, you can apply for, add it to the loan. So I mean, you can do all the pilot testing and, add it to the amount of money when you get reimbursed for it. So,
Yeah.
so all the, everything we've done is.
So just to kind of reiterate, we had a little noise, but, you're saying that everything that we've already spent money on, the pilot test for Hickory Hills, the pilot test for, Lancaster Ave, the pilot test for Keatings, could possibly be added on to.
He was pretty firm that we will get reimbursed for all the
Because
expenses.
we had to get loans for,
Nothing. None of the pilot studies.
So,
well, we had one funded by ARPA, how did we fund
The
the?
other two were,
Out of our
out of our,
reserves.
yeah, out of our
Surplus.
Came out
reserves.
of your money.
Yeah,
yeah.
Fran, when you said he, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear before. Who were you referring
Oh,
to? Who
the,
told you that?
Barron and Bud, that's the attorneys that are on for our
Oh,
class
KP,
action.
KP Law.
No,
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 no, Barron
it's a
and Bud.
separate one. It's Barron and Bud. That's the name. They're
Okay.
doing the class action lawsuit against.
Oh,
them.
I understand. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you were
And
saying.
we only went with them because we had used them in the past. MTBE was the fuel additive.
Right.
And that was the same thing. It was getting in everybody's water supply. So we used these guys and we didn't know where it would really go. And I think they got us like $700,000. And that was what we used for engineering and the design for the Keating well. So that's what kind of got us going on that. So.
Great.
So anyway, so
Thank
they had
you.
a good reputation with us, so when they came to us again doing this class action, they were kind of like,
Gotcha.
because they got stuff down.
I commend you for what you're doing, because you've hit all the bases. And this thing isn't gonna go away real quick. And, you know, I would encourage you to keep doing it and keep submitting and, you know, make sure that everybody knows that this is, you know, a very critical thing for the smaller guys. You know, so,
thank you.
good job.
Just to reiterate this, the financial that went out was based on 0%.
0%, 30 year.
30
And
a
they
year,
go to-
which depending, you know, things could change. Once we have the actual data, then we will definitely be posting that
Absolutely.
information.
But I could easily redo that thing and do a 0 and then a 2%
Right.
to show that.
yeah.
Now that
Obviously-
they've updated, we will probably update this as well.
If you do that, Fran, would you mind emailing me a copy?
We'll
Thank
we'll
you.
probably post, I would
Yeah.
be willing to bet. I don't know if people have been seeing, we've been putting a lot of information out there to inform people, new websites, trying to be as interactive as we can.
And I clicked on the
with that.
website today. I
Yeah.
clicked on the Facebook thing. It said, come to today's meeting. Click this link for the agenda. I clicked the link, there was no agenda. The last agenda was March 18th. So people were calling me all day saying, we clicked the link, there's no agenda. Why is there no agenda?
We'll have to check. That's, we have an outside service that does that? Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
They're
it's
working
better
at
for
it.
you if the agenda's there.
Oh, yeah.
I
It's-
apologize.
It's
I
not,
was-
you know.
I had was out on Monday,
Oh.
and it was passed on to try to get everything posted and done. It was posted in our correct places where we're required by our law.
Oh, yes,
bylaws to
yes,
post,
I know.
But I apologize, it did not get posted in all of the other places I
That's-
needed
yeah,
to, but I did post it today after I saw your comment.
Yes.
I did post it
Well, I
right away
thought
for
you
people.
might if somebody let you know, because I thought you didn't even know.
No, and that's.
I didn't, cause I
Of course
was
not.
out on Monday, which is the days
Right.
I always post, so.
Yeah, and that's the downfall of trying to use so many different forms of communication, but we are trying to reach everybody that we can. It's not always perfect, but we're trying. So, I think we're good on the funding, unless there's more questions on what we reviewed for funding. I would say that we are, I mean, I'm prepared to vote on the
Yeah.
on the master plan and the path we intend to follow and use as a guideline for PFAS remediation within the.
If you wanna go
within our
by
water system.
theirs, the PFAS capital improvement plan, which covers everything, you know, with your, because we're voting on the whole master plan, and this
Right.
basically is their whole plan,
So-
including Keating's.
so
The master plan is
You
supposed to
have
be.
that top box could basically be, maybe site
Per
coverage and
diem
stuff.
bonds.
Yeah,
You know, we could, if, we would make it based on
Yeah,
that.
so basically we're talking about,
sorry,
Yeah, so, yeah,
the Hickory/Lancaster Ave water treatment
27.
plan.
so on time bonds, capital improvement planning summary is basically their summary of what you guys can vote on, which basically has, all of it. Our whole
Yeah,
master plan right
right.
there, is that, would you agree that's what they would vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we're favoring the Hickory/Lancaster Ave water treatment plan.
that's.
which is
yes.
included in
Right.
this
Yeah.
section.
Capital improvement.
Time
plans,
on
yeah.
PFAS capital improvement plans summary
Yeah.
is what you guys are.
Can we have a copy of the summary to see what's in it?
Sure.
I would think that it would be beneficial, just a CYA, if you included some verbiage from the engineers and have have them commit that this is a very viable approach that we're doing and they support it.
They do that.
They did.
Yeah, I think they
They
did.
did in their
They did it.
presentation.
So if you look what Monday's meeting is when they came.
Monday the
they had a-
18th.
Yeah, they had a slide, they had all this up there on
Yeah.
the whole slideshow, the whole presentation.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of good questions asked and back and forth, and it is definitely,
Good.
It's online.
it is, yes.
It's out on YouTube. It was very,
And it's good that you're including, from my perspective, the extra millions, you know, so that they can see from the get-go that this is what we asked for because of the overall cost.
Mhm.
So,
We would-
I guess for me, the motion would probably be the capital improvement plan.
Yeah, planning.
With the primary starting to, following the, recommendation to tie Lancaster and Hickory together for an estimated budget of 32 million, and then, following up with treatment of the Keating well for, an estimated budget of 12 million, for an estimated budget at this time of 45.150 million
For everything.
for.
Correct.
Right, and basically, it's just saying that our intent is to
Solve the problem.
solve the problem and follow it in this means, so.
I think that's smart.
And if I would stay with that, that's, I think something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to add any more.
And this is obviously just us, we want to follow this plan. Once it comes to all these monies and everything, we'll have to have this nailed down to a T, vote, et cetera.
Right.
This is just-
before
I
you
think
vote,
you-
can you read exactly what you're voting on, because it seems to.
So what we're voting to follow the recommendations based on, from Time Bond in their report for PFAS master plan to include Hickory Hills and Lancaster, one treatment plant, so a transmission line.
At Lancaster?
At Lancaster, you know, so it's kind of outlined it was in their
Yeah.
report that they gave, slide 27. Their estimated budget for that was 32.2 million. And keep working towards the Keating treatment plant, which would be a budgetary number of 12.2. Basically, right now, following a $45,150,000 budget to treat PFAS throughout the
district.
entire water district.
Okay.
So that's, and this is not, we're voting to follow this plan, doesn't mean it may
Right.
change. But our goal is, based on their recommendations, based on the financial numbers they gave us, this, you know, it's not an easy pill to swallow, but we feel that this is the best, most economic way to remediate PFAS in the system, to have a clean, healthy water supply, and it's mainly, you know, it's just to ensure for the future.
Do you
And-
think it makes sense to divide the total into the 3 bites so that you?
So I think our intent right now is to try to get 32 million and tie the two together under the current SRF funding. And that's why I was separating them just into, combining those 2 sites.
Yep,
Whether it may be over a couple year time span. And then we would definitely have to apply for SRF funding or some type of funding for Keating to see and move forward with that.
I think it's important to make sure that everybody understands that notwithstanding what the total package amounts to, this is how we come at the total package.
Right.
Ba-boom,
and that-
ba-boom, ba-boom.
And that's what it was. And I basically, instead of treating the 3 separate well sites, I'm treating Lancaster and Hickory Hills as one, Keating's as one, and then the total is 45,150,000 estimated.
And I would strongly recommend that you not put into the request that you've got a commissioner and the superintendent that are loaded that will make up any shortfall.
I wish that was,
You're the one that thought
You-
2 million
you
was
tell-
chunky.
You tell me which commissioner's gonna make up the shortfall, because they tell them this is. Okay, go ahead.
So I just want to understand things going forward. So if you vote to accept that plan today as your course of action, chosen course of action, I know you have a meeting planned for May 16th
Yep.
for a vote. Will the vote be amorphic, or will the vote be on, this is the money for Lancaster and Hickory Hills at this site, at this location, doing this amount of cleaning?
I believe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, it will be specific to what we are doing, and I believe the May vote, in order to get the funding, will be, if we follow this plan and can go to the 32 million for both,
Right.
the vote would be for both, to accept the funding. We should have an update to the intended use plan to 32 million to vote on, or whatever the intended use plan is going to
Yes.
give us. That's probably what we're gonna be voting on the May meeting,
So, just,
So
so
right
I-
now, it's 14.9 million.
right, but just so but I'm not so much interested in the amount as I am what it's for.
Okay, so.
Okay, so could it change? And could you say, well, we're only gonna get the 14.9, we're going back to option 1?
No, my intent would be to use a 14.9 to do as much as we can with a transmission main and build as much of a facility as we can on Lancaster, because that would be following this plan.
And so the vote on May 16th will be for a specific location?
A specific location and a specific amount.
And up until that point, as we get more information and numbers in, before we come to that vote, we will have hard numbers in front of us. Yes, we got approved for this, blah, 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 blah. And it is everyone's intent here to put this facility on Lancaster Ave. It makes the most sense. Hopefully, we can get a whole bunch of money for it, but right
There is
now-
a slush fund, I read the whole thing today, there is a slush fund.
so the way it's working, the engineers are working on getting that actual true number to add Lancaster to the Hickory Hills. So once that true number's found, then that'll be what the vote is for. So let's say DEP is, no, you can't do that. Then it'll be the 14.9.
But for what location?
That would be for Lancaster Ave. So if things go bad and we only can do the 14.9, as Mark said, we'll run the transmission main, we'll build the building and just oversize it so it can accommodate the Lancaster Ave wells. So then when the Lancaster Ave wells, then we just gotta modify the building.
Okay.
So I'm sure we can do I'm sure that it'll be higher than the 14.9. Maybe we can't go to the 32, but we're gonna take what they'll give us. And we'll modify our design to just use what.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
clarification.
so, yeah, our vote will be, today is to proceed on this course of action. And the vote in May is going to be on the specific course of action and a specific amount.
We'll have updated numbers.
We'll have updated numbers. If anything was gonna change, it would change before then. I don't see it. I think that they've done a really good job in putting together a comprehensive plan that covers everything. It's gonna cost us more money to change it and do something different. I don't see a change.
The real option here is nothing. Because this is something we've got to do.
Well, that's why there is a nothing option, but I don't think
No.
it is fiscally responsible
Of course not.
or morally responsible, knowing that, you know, we have this contaminant in the water.
Yeah.
You know,
I think-
I'm not doing it for me. I mean, I'm.
Oh, we know you are.
Well, I'm doing it for my kids and their kids,
Yeah.
you know, because that's where this really affects people.
I think to clarify, the intent on this side of the table is to put a treatment plant on Lancaster Ave to treat both Hickory Hills and Lancaster wells. We already have the 14.9. If for some reason the state, we don't get granted extra money, then we will come back to the drawing board and be like, do we try to raise the money elsewhere, some other way? Do we just do like we
We'll
said?
continue to apply for
We'll
SRF.
continue, but we're gonna put a plan on Lancaster Ave, and it's gonna treat Hickory Hills. Hopefully, we can get it to treat both, and that will be great. But-
We will. It will be, eventually.
That's,
it'll
that,
be-
eventually.
So to
But like,
me,
for this vote right now, alls we're voting on is like, we are going to
This is the
proceed with
course
this
of action we're gonna
that
follow.
we were gonna-
Option 3.
Yeah,
option 3,
Option
and that's what.
Maybe
I
that
think-
should be in the
it's not really,
motion.
I
But I don't
agree,
really
I agree.
see-
I'm more with John.
okay.
You know,
I don't see where it says option.
I know,
Doesn't
that's what I
say,
don't
it is
see.
the
but
third
they laid out
option, but-
they laid out their plan. But I mean, I'm not, I think, I don't know if they said option 3.
I know, that's what
But
I'm,
I'm thinking you guys make a motion that accepts the master plan as presented, where Ty and Bond consolidates the Lancaster Avenue Hickory Hills treatment plant and
That's kind of where it's going, right.
no money, just,
Okay.
oh, no.
I wouldn't do money.
Well, I mean, it's their budgets, so we really don't know,
So you can say with a budget number.
but, okay,
Forward,
so then,
scary number.
why don't we,
Yeah. I guess I don't see the numbers, you know.
That's what I'm trying to, alright. So this is their actual master plan they gave to you. This was the slideshow. So if you did, table 5-2, capital improvement planning summary, this is
yeah. So
this is theirs.
it's basically
So-
what Fran
Yeah.
said, so, basically a motion to approve the capital improvement planning summary to include Hickory Hills and Lancaster Ave, including raw water transmission to Lancaster Avenue, which would be the location of the treatment facility.
Can I just say that now?
And then PFAS treatment plant for Keating Well.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of, I mean, the numbers are what the numbers are. So
Yeah.
basically, this and this
Yep,
is this.
according to this
And
table,
that's the.
which we can post for people
And
to see. and
that's
look
our
at.
intent, is to follow their PFAS master plan in that manner. Somebody second
Okay,
that?
yeah, all right. I'll second, can I second that?
No, I
No,
voted,
okay.
so moved.
So moved.
So, and then if John agrees, then we can move forward.
Yes,
So, do you second that, John?
yes.
Okay. Is it under, it's a little broken up, but is it understood
Yes.
where we're coming from? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. So that's the, I think they did a good job with this. I think we all are aware which direction we are looking to go. Okay.
It's a good idea to have a unanimous vote.
We
Yeah.
are, the board voted unanimously on that. How's
Yeah.
that? We also had dates coming up for public education, but I guess I'll do that under Commissioner
Yeah,
Superintendent.
I got stuff for that too.
So, okay. Do you have those dates on
Mhm.
it? Okay. So, we were, discuss and vote change order from Stan Tech for Mass Ave water main replacement.
Okay, this has come up in the past, Gary from Stantec, mentioned it again, asked if we could, discuss it again. Lost it in the files,
Here, don't mind.
but, he did a change order because of the, state permit. It took so much more work, to get it through, I mean, it was intense. They would submit the information they request, and then they send it back, so now you're doing it again and again. I mean, this went on probably 10 times. So, I mean, it's been 2 years, and we still just got our permit. And, so anyway, so Gary's looking for a change order in the engineering consultant services to compensate the time that they spent on it. So, he said already, because it's from when this was submitted to us, which was in September, so it was quite a while ago. He says they've already added roughly $5,000 more to this. But he says if we can approve this, he would.
I included that email of what he
Oh, you
wrote
did?
to,
Okay.
yeah, to this in the last, well, it's.
So they've done that much more
So they've
work
done-
into this.
Yes.
I
But
think
he's
one
willing
of,
to-
some of the problems we had with it was some of the stuff that I don't know, I thought there were some submittals and so forth, things that they should have covered the first time.
Yes, there was things that came back and requests from Mass DOT, and Stantec responded to that and didn't hit all the things that they were looking for. But on the flip side of that, they asked for a whole bunch more stuff too. So I think, and it wasn't like it was, hey, you're gonna redo the yellow lines on the road. It was very intense, stuff that took other engineers to look at the geotechnical stuff, the soils, and it was some pretty intense stuff.
I mean, does this all have to go like along with the hours of operation we're talking about from 7:30, move that to 9?
That's all, yeah, those-
Like, I mean, like, is that all these things that they've,
Well, that's not really in this change order.
Okay.
That's where he said he's gonna email that,
Yeah.
so he was looking just for this. But, yeah, that's still ongoing. We're still trying to get the hours changed.
is that the original bill that we saw in September? He just
Yes.
wants that?
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
Yep, so he'd be happy just getting the 15,800.
Yeah.
And we are seeing it with other projects going on, that DOT
I-
is just as.
I know that they had to go through so many things
Yeah.
there, and it just seemed like ridiculous. And I understand, like, at first, I was a little, even
Yeah.
before, like, hey, we want these 5 things, they send back 4. But then they come back and be like, we want these 8, add 3 more to that, so I'm okay with it.
I'm telling you, this is probably one of the most difficult things. I mean,
This has been
hopefully we don't have to
ridiculous.
work on Mass Ave
Yeah,
ever again.
ever again.
I mean, because we need a main replace, we're not gonna replace it. We're gonna sleeve it.
Yeah,
Because this
This
is,
is-
it's crazy.
this is.
They're
gone.
treating it like it's 95
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, exactly. I think they were on 128 or something, yeah.
And in the old days, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would call and get a permit 3 days. Yep,
Yeah.
Flo will fill it, pave it, does our specs and done, that's it.
Can we get something from him delineating the additional amount that he's either discounted, just something that he
It's
will.
in
I think I printed
Oh,
his.
was it in his email?
Yeah,
Just something that
um,
says it.
Since
Okay,
that
yeah.
time, we've spent another 5K to finally secure. I would really appreciate it. I would write off any additional money that was spent getting the permit. So I'll
so
keep
it's
that with
15.
it, so it's written, yeah.
Board would approve the amendment 2. Well, amendment 2 is 17,860.
Oh, total
Yeah.
fees, let's change those, right, I was
Yes.
reading the other change.
Sorry, this is amendment dated September.
17,860, right?
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
okay, total fees in this change order was 17,860. Here's the amendment we sent back, we'll spend another 5,000. And then we'll write off any additional expenses. I mean, he's working for it, so
Mm.
I'm open to taking care of that. I understand there has been a lot, Mass DOT is
Whole new gang down there.
taking you know,
Damn Democrats.
So Gary was here today with MDL, we had
Yeah.
a meeting today, so he's still looking at it.
so is that free too?
About all that, yeah. yeah, we're
Okay,
good with that.
well, if it's part of all, you sure?
I think so.
Yeah, I would, think we should pay him.
How you feel, Mr. Esposito?
What's the amount?
$17,860.
Get her done.
You know me, I don't like to spend any money, but
I don't like to
guys
spend
gotta
any money,
come
but-
to 'em. I know, I'm just
That's,
saying.
there's so many
Nothing
unforeseen
you can
things
do
that happen
about
in
it, you gotta
projects
pay
now.
it or,
Yeah, we want them to keep showing up,
Yeah.
so,
well, every time he shows up, it costs us money.
yeah. There's money, so the rest of the stuff is agreed upon for engineering and follow-up stuff that they're gonna be doing.
Right, correct, yep.
So it's
There
all,
was-
it's
there was-
all,
there was
everything
all
else is
section.
all contracted, this is
Yes.
the only change order that we have as far as we've been to this point. in the
Right,
project.
this is the only thing that went out of line, yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe have the record drawing and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember, because one of the big things they made us do was core samples, crossing, doing a directional drill in an area that, and that was substantial. So,
Sorry.
Do we need a motion for this?
yes,
I'll make a motion to pay Stantec $17,860 for services rendered here. Can I hear a
I
second?
second that.
Mm.
okay. Any discussion? We've already had all that.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'm just curious, while we're on that, did we find anything more about the flowable fill inside the old pipe?
Yes, they're going to get a price for doing that, and it's not a simple thing. Their thing is, cause they've done it. And, they say you can't just pump the flowable fill in the old pipe and, cause it doesn't go. So he says you gotta dig up the old pipe and put holes in it to get the flowable fill to come through the holes.
Gotcha.
So he says it's not very easy, and, I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, all the water mains off the road anyway, so we'll see what happens.
We're still fighting that
Yeah.
battle. This possibly could be a non-issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Could not, but if that we do encounter it, then we have to have a dollar item, because it wasn't in the contract. So 3 things came up at this meeting. The flowable fill to fill the old pipe,
Yep.
the mill and paving, which wasn't part of the old plan, the
Right.
original plan. The original plan was just trench patch. Then the state requested whole intersections being paved, mill and paved. And then there was services across the road, and they were a certain distance, not very far apart, they made you mill and pave, so you only have one seam. So milling and paving, from what the contractor was saying, is that it's gonna be pretty expensive, because you're not going and milling and paving a whole street, you're just coming out and doing little sections. So he says, it's not gonna be, typically you pay per square yard,
Yeah.
per square foot. He said, that's not gonna be how this is, it's gonna be a lump sum fee for them to come out and spend a day or 2 days just to do stuff.
Right.
So there was one other thing. Flowable fill, paving, all the work hours, and we're working on the work hours.
How much of that, main is in the street, do you know, a lot?
I think the only part is near Arbor Street, where it goes near the school, it kinda goes out on the road a little bit. And then it goes right back to the edge of the road.
What about crossing Thompson Harbor Road?
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but so we have to pave that intersection,
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
have to pave the Arbor Street intersection.
But I'm talking about flowable fill in the pipe if it's in the street.
Oh, then we're gonna be removing the pipe, so you won't have to do that. Cause we have to tie into the main that goes down Townsend Harbor already, so we have to have it in the exact same location, to
Yeah.
do the tie.
Anything else regarding water main?
Nope, that was,
While we're on it, we should just jump to, I mean, we've already done some of the old business, but we talked about the Mass Ave water main. Hickory Hills pilot study?
Still working good. Actually, it was just submitted today. The actual, it didn't work as planned. The way the Time Bond hoped to do it was to have the pilot testing on Hickory Hills and have Lancaster added to that pilot test. So that was submitted yesterday. DEP rejected that, said they wanted their own Hickory Hills to apply, sorry, for Lancaster Ave to apply for its own pilot test. So that was actually just submitted this afternoon. So the way that's gonna work is they're gonna take all, because it's gonna be one combined treatment plant, they're gonna take all the media, biologic filters and the green sand filters and the PFAS filters, and move those in the trailer to Lancaster Ave and continue the test over there. So that's a shorter term and more than less than half the cost, so it'll be a good thing.
Okay.
And then I just got the approval half hour ago for me, the approval to do the Keating pilot test. That's moving ahead too.
Good. So that covered the Keating pilot study. And I think we talked about SRF, ARPA, and litigation funding. So we covered all those, so we'll go to Commissioner, Superintendent, Clerk Treasurer's additions.
I think I covered all mine.
The only thing I had was I sent out all the invitations today. We got a couple of big dates coming up. So next Thursday, April 4th at noon, I sent Heather the invitation to send out to all the town boards, employees, everyone to come here for informational seminar for the townspeople to get to see what our master plan is.
Town
what we-
employees.
Town
and boards.
employees, yes, and boards, select boards, finance boards, for them to come and see our master plan, what we're looking to do going forward. And then our next date is Wednesday, April 10th at 6:30 here. I sent John Fortune, being the president of the Hickory Hills Lake Association, I sent him the invitation, asked him to forward it to all of the Hickory Hills residents. He said he had to wait to get the board of directors' approval in order to send that out. So I'm hoping he'll get that out to all the residents, because that was talked about with Capital Strategic and with Time Bond, that because they're abutters to the lake, to the Hickory Hills, that come for an informational seminar then. And then our next one will be Thursday, April 25th at 6:30 is gonna be the town-wide informational PFAS at the high
And
school.
That's gonna be at the high school.
Yep, so that's gonna be talking about PFAS, you know, education on PFAS, but then also talking about the whole master plan, what we're going forward
I
through.
think they're gonna do what they did for us, for after school for the rest of the.
Yeah, but we'd like to, but it's for the whole entire town, not just the water
Time
district.
Bond is going to?
Yes,
Yes.
Time Bond's gonna be every one of these meetings.
Okay.
Yep, Time on and Capital Strategic, to help with everything. And then, going with dates, Thursday, May 16th at 6:30 at the school as well. Got those all lined up for, so our hope is to talk with all of the groups, towns, residents, everybody ahead of time, to get everybody informed on what the
Get
water
it
district
and
is
try to,
doing,
yeah. Get input.
to move forward, so. So I did send those letters out, and then we also agreed, Fran and I had talked about how short-handed we are with, losing the
Yeah.
other employee. So we did change, the date. We originally had the application, accepting resumes and applications till the 16th, I think we had it or something. So we did talk with Nicole. Nicole's been helping us with our, Capital
yeah.
Strategic with posts and everything. We did change the date to this Friday.
Okay.
So we have received a few applications, but we talked about trying to get a few people here next week. And then we'll set it up to talk with you guys.
Sounds good.
But we got a lot going on, so.
We did get a lot of applications?
Well,
We did
three,
a few.
3 or 4.
Three.
I had a couple people call or ask questions, send me messages
Sure,
on
yeah.
Facebook, and then a couple of them, they never sent anything through,
That's all
so.
right.
But we got a couple good local applicants, so.
We'll check them out.
Yep.
I had in the notification, quick question, if you could. Popular people in
Mine
this.
is
Senator
silent.
Rogers.
And he takes it, and he takes it.
You have to go out in the hall, Mr. Rogers.
We'll all stand by for a minute.
Good. I'm treading water.
Ms. Pease, my question, is everybody that lives in the Woodlands a member of the Hickory Hills
Yes,
landowners?
it's a
So you-
mandatory thing.
So if you're that, I didn't hear that you notified the Woodlands, but everybody's gonna get a notification? Can we-
If the board of directors from Hickory Hills votes to send this out,
Yeah,
then yes, everyone at the Woodlands will get it. We are mandatory lake shareholders.
The only thing I didn't ask John was when would they vote on that?
because this meeting's scheduled.
Yeah, because we have the meeting set for Wednesday, April 10th. When would the board meet to decide if the residents would get that?
What they may choose to do is an email vote rather than
Oh,
in
okay.
person, so that we can get it for you.
Oh, okay.
What is the date you would like to have the vote completed? When do you need to know? Obviously
Well,
before.
No, they don't.
It'd be nice to get this out to the residents as soon as
She wants to know
possible.
when the email can go
Right.
out.
Yes, she said as soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as
Yeah.
possible, just so residents have time to know that it's Wednesday, April 10th at 6:30
Yeah.
here at the district office, and it's,
That shouldn't be a problem.
okay,
We'll take care of that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment.
That's all I got.
We're still working our way across the table, we're gonna work on that. John, you got anything?
No, nothing right now.
I thank the public for coming out today. It's
Yeah, it's great to have people
very
that are
excited
here.
about it.
Fran,
I like
you-
having interaction. This
I'm
is
good, yeah.
very good.
I'm
You're all
good.
set? Okay, I believe we can, go to public comment.
Okay, Joan Pease, 11 Leonard Green Court, just in case I'm supposed to do that again. There's been a lot of positive cooperational progress that's appreciated on all fronts made. There is, however, a little bit of a sticking point still. I spoke to Mark about it on the phone. John told me he spoke to Mark about it on the phone. The sticking point that we have is lowering of the lake, possible lowering of the lake level. I won't even say lowering of the lake level, I'll say possible lowering of the lake level. And what safeguards we could have should that occur. To that end, it was brought to our attention a document which I believe you have, we didn't have until now. This is from the DEP, and it is dated December 15th, 1994, to the Lunenburg Water District. And it is something that was for the approval of the Hickory Hills well. I have copies, I'm sure Fran has copies anyway. And in here it says, the well site is approved for further development by the Lunenburg Water District at the approved yield rate of 500 GPMs in accordance with 310 CMR 22.00 drinking water regulation and guidelines. This approval is subject to the following conditions. And there are 6 conditions listed. And condition number 5 struck us with our concern about the well levels. It says, this well site is subject to surface water treatment rules unless the source is to be used only as an emergency backup source. So this appears to us to be DEP agreement that there will be surface water from the lake going in, requiring surface water treatment if this well is pumped continuously, not as a backup well. I'm talking, I got copies of this.
Yeah,
sure
I'm
you
familiar
got
with
them?
that,
Okay. So it's number 5, it's condition number 5 in here. So
I can
what-
answer that if you want,
Yeah,
or you
but-
want to keep going.
Let me finish because I'm on a roll, and then I'll defer to you. So this plus some of our other references from the geology report and the Dufresne and Henry report, we're not saying don't do it. We're saying we need assurances that under certain conditions, the Hickory Hills well won't be pumped. When there's certain levels, no water going over the dam, etc. Something in the summer months like that. And we are going to be looking for that, some sort of assurances on that. But we feel we've come a long way.
So we are aware of that, we are starting to discuss that, come up with guidelines, such as the PFAS master plan, that we would like to follow. We've talked to the engineers about having real-time monitoring of lake levels. Fran and I have discussed possibilities of a test, of monitoring the groundwater level at the same time. So, it's not anything that we're disregarding. We are definitely looking into and being sensitive to your concerns. And I believe you wanted to go over the surface water?
Yes.
I want to add just one bit to that.
Yes.
If you looked at that, the presentation from Time and Bond.
I have twice.
Do you see that they did, we are going to put in lake level monitoring, whatever you call
Right,
those
we
things.
discussed
The,
that.
the, being quite straightforward as I am, and honest with you, on November 30th, 2022, there was a meeting in the town hall with all of the people here, and Ty and Bond, myself, John Fortune was there at that meeting. I don't know if Bobby was at that, Bobby was at that meeting. And at that meeting, we were promised that during the pilot study, for the entire duration of the pilot study, the lake level would be measured. And Superintendent McNamara suggested that information and data be made public to the residents at the time, in real time. And then when the pilot study happened, there was no including of measuring lake levels. So this has,
It changed.
you know what, and caused us concern. No one came to us and said, we're not gonna do it. We just realized over time, hey, nothing's happening. It was promised and it
I
wasn't.
think it had come up at one of the meetings
We did
after that.
discuss it at a meeting after that.
And the way that pilot testing is working now, we only draw 20,000 gallons a day. We fill up the tank, and we run the testing on it, and that water's all discharged, all perfectly clean, and it runs back in the lake, so you wouldn't see any.
Oh, no, I understand that,
Right.
and that's not what I'm referring to. There was additional discussion on November 30th, 2022. You're right about what you're talking about.
Okay.
That was the drawing the water away and figuring out how.
Oh, yeah, right.
The hydrogeologist that you had at the meeting that night said he was going to put in an insulated gauge in the lake for the entire duration of the pilot period to give us real-time data as a baseline during the pilot program before the well was pumped. It's on the
That is-
videotape.
that
You
is
can go
true.
back.
Yeah.
You can
That's
go back
true.
and watch it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know how much that, honestly, with the little bit that we were pumping, and I thought the engineer.
No, this wasn't to measure the pumping.
Yeah.
This was to measure, it was supposed to be 12 months, because that's originally the pilot.
Oh, so that was
of-
from the hydrogeologist?
Yes,
Dave
from the
Harvey, the
lake
hydrogen.
level to give us a baseline. And that did not happen, and that was
I would,
promised.
I would say we have to follow up with him then on that, why that did not happen, because that's, if he said it was gonna happen. it
He did.
Yeah.
And
But-
actually, Tom Mahana also said at that meeting, I can almost repeat the meeting for you by heart by now, but anyway, Tom Mahana also said that he would collect that data for a full year through the duration of the pilot, and they were going to make it available to Fran to put on the website so that residents can see just that it wasn't how the pumping affected the lake. It was a base level of water in the lake levels.
All true.
And that was not carried
So
through.
I would,
I
I would
agree.
say, Fran, you should follow up with.
I can
Ty
follow
Bond
up,
and
yeah,
find
and
out.
it was, I mean, everything kind of went crazy from what the original pilot test was. The whole thing was redesigned, so I think that just didn't get followed through it. But I agree, it was definitely said, and I remember the baseline, so I 100% agree with you.
So, but what that does is it heightens our concerns about wanting assurances in writing that are binding, that if the lake, you know, you want to pump in the winter, I don't think anybody has a problem. You want to pump in the spring and summer, no one has a problem if water's going over the dam. No one. But it's a temporary situation where we're going to need assurances, and I think there's some other concerns too, but that's the one I wanted to address.
Can I tell my thinking on the recycling?
We can discuss that, but you also have, you had.
Oh, the MPA.
question
Oh,
about
so,
The DEP report that she.
right,
Yeah.
so, every Fitchburg, Leominster, all the large reservoir water systems had to put in full-blown treatment plants for surface water. You cannot pump surface water
Correct.
into the water system. So that's what that's referring to. So we had to prove, when that well went online, we had to do it's called a microscopic particular analysis.
Correct.
And so we had to do that on the well, and it was excellent. It was amazing how good of a result it was. And that's what eliminated that surface water.
But it
So I was
says,
saying we
if
had to prove
this
it.
well is to be used for anything more than an emergency source of water,
Uh,
continuous surface water treatment rules must apply.
Right, if we were found to be drawing surface water because it's so close to the lake, then we could only use it as an emergency supply. But we
aren't-
did.
We aren't
did
drawing
test.
surface, that well is not drawing surface water.
Do you have a report that says that I could have?
I'd have to dig it out.
That would be
Actually, before we did the pilot test, that's when, I remember
We just did
Bob
another one.
calling saying, everybody's complaining about the water, cause that's why everybody's complaining, cause I ran a full flow test in
I
the
remember.
well to do that test again. Because if we failed that test, we'd throw in that well and get rid of it.
So I'm
Too much.
I'm just here to relay to you that there are a large number of people, very large, still concerned about pumping during the summer months if there is no water going over the dam. If it's winter, if there's water going over the dam, if there's not water going over that dam, and we have had only occasionally 2011, we had a terrible year. And that was when the well was pumped, and
There is,
2010.
2010.
it might have been 2010.
2010 and 2000, because the previous president came to visit me in 2011. Said the lake is very low, you must be pumping the well again. And I said, run it just like normal. She asked for the pump logs, and she found out. So I found out that the lake was very low, and she found out we never ran the well. So,
I think it was 2010. It was the first year Bob and I lived here.
Right.
2
There-
years,
there
2010
is-
and 11.
there
But
is-
anyway, there is a concern still.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
but there is,
I'm
on
just-
our,
I'm-
on our end, there are reasons that we have to run it a certain amount anyway. Because if granted, we don't have the plant there. And one of the concerns before was if we have the plant on site, in order to keep the process of cleaning the water going, a certain amount of water needed to constantly.
That's
flow
minimal,
through.
yes.
Now we're looking at a transmission main that goes from one site to the other.
Right. So
You don't want to leave water in that main too long because now you're going to be dealing with water quality issues. So there's a certain amount needed to flush that main. And then there's also another aspect that we discussed. If you want to go over it, I
Yeah.
go.
So I've gone over this in the past. I'm not sure how many residents are in the Hickory Hills area, but I mean, that's the Malpas Brook subbasin. Okay, so there's no sewage in that whole area. So all the water that goes in goes back to the septic, so it's recharging itself.
Yes,
So our thinking was that during those critical times of your concern, that we limit the amount of pumping from the well based on what everybody's using. So if everybody uses 100,000, I'm just making up numbers, 100,000 gallons a day, we could run the well 100,000 gallons a day. Because what we pump out, it gets restored.
well, but if you're pumping it into the town at large, then it's not going into the watershed under the lake.
It's-
In other words, if the Hickory Hills well is at Lancaster, and it is be pumping into houses that are not at the well, then it's being discharged into their sewer systems, and it's not going back
Okay,
into the
I
water.
understand 100% what you're saying. First off, Joan, we hear your concerns, and they're valid, and we will definitely work with you on them. But to your point there, we're just saying that, let's just make this 100,000 gallons up, okay? If the Hickory Hills area, we'll call it Townsend Harbor Road down, I'm just making up, used 100,000 gallons of water a day, all right? And I understand that it gets pumped over here, but needless to say, you guys are still getting 100,000 gallons of water down that main to that lake in a day. Whether it came out of there or came in here, it's still 100,000
Yes,
gallons
but
going out.
under rare situations,
But do you
such
understand
as
what I'm saying?
2010,
Apples to
there
apples.
is, I understand, but
Water in,
there's,
water out,
I do understand that, I am a chemist, you do, okay.
Oh, all right, well, I mean, first you would be concerned that you was taking it
But,
out.
but some of the water will be going to other areas in town.
But no, they won't. It's
From the
water
Hickory
in,
Hills.
water out.
Regardless of where it
Regardless
comes
of where it
from,
comes from, you're still
if
getting
you're
100,000
using that
gallons
water, you're
that
still
way.
getting it back.
The people who at the lake who are using it are getting it back.
There you
But
go.
some of the pumping to other parts of town when this becomes a town well, will not be going back to the lake. But anyway, I don't wanna
No, no,
belabor
no,
that
no,
point.
no, I don't think you understand.
In this,
If the case of the Hickory Hills well, let's say it pumps out 100,000 gallons in a day.
Where is that water going from?
It's
the-
going to a tank, which is distributed throughout
All
town.
over town.
Okay? But at the same time, there's 100,000 gallons going. That Hickory Hills does
Discharge
not
to those
pump,
reservoirs.
it pumps to a tank, goes out to town. You're still getting 100,000 gallons
That's true.
back, down that main.
And we are right now, every summer. We are right now, year-round.
Right.
But the well is not being pumped. So the well will be an
Surface.
additional factor in that equation that is not in the equation now. So that's an additional variable that's being added. The in and out is happening right now. It's happening every day right now. But we're gonna add another variable to the equation. Well, I'm not saying don't turn the well on. I'm not trying, I'm just saying there is a serious concern about conditions in the lake. One of those concerns, and there's a couple more, one of those concerns is lake levels during a drought. So we will be looking for assurances that if a bad situation develops, there would be some mutual working together to try and eliminate it until the recharge occurred. We're not looking to turn it off for the rest of the summer until the recharge occurs. I've heard Fran often talk about Lancaster has to be turned off to recharge for a few days.
Correct.
Okay, so we're looking for the same thing. If it stops going over the dam and it's summer hot months, we need some agreement that the situation will be modified to allow for recharge. Temporary ceasing.
but we also,
from-
on our end, have to be able to pump a certain amount to keep the water clean.
And a
So
small
there's-
amount would be
There's
okay,
a little
Mark.
bit, and I agree, I don't necessarily, I'm not a hydrogeologist. You're telling me something that is fairly simple to understand. I understand what you're saying. But I think there are more factors that we're not considering. And one of the things that I had in my conversation with Mr. Fortune was talking about continued working together, and possibly because we both have strong opinions about the information we have, having a third-party hydrogeologist that would be able to sit at the table with us and walk us through a fair resolution. And if we did something like that, there's a number of ways we can do it. But one way is, if we're showing we're vested, but if we pay the whole thing, then everybody looks at us and says, well, you hired a guy, he's gonna say what you said. If we were gonna have a mutually agreed upon, then I think that the Hickory Hills Association should, in order to get the sense of, the water district paying a guy, so he's gonna say what they want, mutually agree upon a hydrogeologist that would sit at the table and be able to mediate, because some of this stuff we aren't gonna get over without somebody else slipping in their common sense and professionalism. But I definitely wanna continue to have these conversations, but there's gonna be a point where we're gonna need that. So something to consider.
So, and I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it would be good to have some sort of resolution before May 16th.
I believe we are working on guidelines, we've been discussing possibly, what we could bring up for guidelines for operation of the well.
So
Thank
one
you.
thing I think on the guidelines, I know that the concern over the dam, I think other factors just to consider is like rainfall, typical rainfall, July and August, 2 inches. Hey, we didn't get 2 inches, or we got 3 inches, so, not
And
just
that-
one specific, just like a bunch of little things that we just kind of keep an eye on.
That's where I think having a third party takes your data, our data, and comes back to us with recommendations and the professionalism of, well, you've lost this much to evaporation, or geez, you do get this much back in the water that goes through your septic systems. you know,
And under
and all the
most- yeah.
factors we're not even thinking of.
And under most
and, you
conditions,
know.
it probably won't be a problem.
Yeah.
But there could be conditions when, you know, the straw that breaks the camel's back and is under rare conditions, which will occur, global
Sure.
warming, things will happen. We want assurances that that straw won't be the pumping of Hickory Hills well on the lake ecosystem.
Under
So-
normal operation, I think we can come to some
I agree.
some
I
sort
think
of
we work some out.
understanding on how we're gonna operate. And if it comes to a request, I mean, we've, as a district and the staff here have always tried to work with the public to help them out above and beyond. So if it comes to us, hey, we're really.
And again,
we're-
we've come a
we're-
long
we're-
way.
we're
There's
at-
a
we're
lot
at
of
we're at
problems
a-
solved,
You know,
so.
we're having issues with lake levels. What can we do? Well, you know, this is what we can do, and if our other sources are up and functioning properly, we'll do I believe we'll work to do
And
everything we can.
I believe you would. I believe you would.
I believe the whole
But
board
people
and the staff
change,
will.
so we need some assurances in writing.
And
People
that's where I
retire,
think-
people leave, new people come.
Yeah.
We
Right.
need some
So-
assurances.
So I agree, I would hope that that issue stands alone and the PFAS issue stands alone. Do not try to mix them both.
I said it, I think we need to have some reassurances before May
I
16th.
agree,
What's
I agree, but
May
there's
16th?
still separate.
That's our
issues.
vote to
That's a
approve the
vote.
funding.
Right.
The only thing that May 16th, there's not a lot of time here.
No, and then we're gonna be able to have some conceptual stuff, but that's where I feel that a continued relationship with a professional helping us, because I think we're gonna learn things
So
as
we
this
need
thing
to work
goes.
that out. I mean, if we're gonna go the route of the professional, a third person.
Quickly.
Then,
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta be quick.
We gotta have something in writing quickly.
Yeah, we can have something that triggers a meeting, triggers you know, that we have to hire a third-party professional, that the board would, you know, I think conceptually, we can come up with ways to make people feel comfortable that we're gonna continue to work together to try to address any of these concerns and the possibility of things that could come up.
But it shouldn't impede, from my standpoint,
The
the
PFAS.
PFAS thing, because that's craziness. Now,
I agree we need to do something on it, but I think they are two separate
but
issues.
didn't we hire somebody from Harvard or something?
So again, we get back to we hired them, and
No, wait a minute,
the
yeah.
perception is that, you know,
Hickory Hills hired them too.
He was Hickory Hills Pete Shanahan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
He was
the
their
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
And we hired him because it was their
Yeah.
guy.
So-
And yeah.
Yeah.
he
So, I
literally,
mean,
from a hydrogeologist standpoint, that guy
He's like
supposedly
the-
walks on water.
Yeah.
Every hydrogeologist.
so why don't we
looks up
call
to
him?
Well, we did talk to him,
We've done this
He
before.
has-
but Woody squashed it.
Who?
Well,
Woody, he didn't want to spend
it
the money.
was an
Yeah.
expense.
It was an expense.
Yeah, it was like 2,500.
Yeah. I guess to wrap this up,
I think there's other
oh,
public
just
comments.
so, no, wow, it's with you, because we've kind of been
We
playing
gotta-
tennis
yeah, we gotta-
with this.
They asked
I
for
agree with you,
public
John.
comments.
We are, all the branches out, let's work together to come up with a solution that everybody's gonna be happy with here. But it's gonna take evolving on both, it can't just be us proposing something, you guys saying, no, I don't wanna do it that way, let's all sit down together at a round table, hopefully with some sort of professional in there to guide this conversation, we can come up with a plan, I'm all for it. Okay. More public comment.
Yes. I'm not gonna beat, first, Bobby Turkington, 110 Royal Fern Drive. I'm a resident and I'm on the board of directors at Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated. But what I want to talk about, I just want to share some additional concerns that the Hickory Hills Lake residents have. I'm not going to beat what we've just been talking about to death. You all understand the fact that there is great concern about water levels, so you understand that. There is another concern that's emerging, because we began discussions initially about using the reactivating Hickory Hill well as a backup well. And now we are talking about a full-fledged water source. One of the concerns that we have is that because it's not going to be a backup well, the DEP may be providing some restrictions on our use of chemicals, which we use to treat invasive weeds. And that's a very real concern, because if invasive weeds are not taken care of by chemical treatment, they can clog up the entire lake and make it unusable. So I'd say that the residents' concern is really about their property values. If the lake is clogged with weeds, you can't boat, you can't swim, you can't fish, your property values drop dramatically, and that's a real concern. And we do not know what DEP may tell us once they have, they realize that this will be a water source for the town, and that it won't be just a backup.
That well is never classified as a backup. The well is always, it's been a public water supply since 1995. It is today, it'll be tomorrow, it's gonna continue to be. So whatever you do for chemical treatment has to get submitted to DEP anyway. And as far as DEP is concerned, that's a public water supply. So I don't think any of the chemical treatment.
If it hasn't affected it now,
All right.
possibly.
We have a
But we
letter
can look
from
into
Mary
that.
Ella Stone. We have a
Yeah,
letter
yeah.
from Mary Ella Stone. I believe it was sent to you, Fran, and actually, my husband watched a public meeting in 2022 of the Water District, and he actually said to you, can I please have a copy of the letter you talked about? And you sent him the letter that Mary Ella Stone wrote to Paula Bertram.
Right.
And in that letter, it does say, yeah, we got concerns about weed treatment. So if you, and she said at the time, the well is inactive, so it's being approved because the well is inactive. So if we turn, I'm sure you remember that, I mean,
I don't
Paula.
remember that.
Oh,
I got so many.
I got, so Paula was the one who initiated that. She was working on it and president of the Lake Association at the time. So that's a very real concern. So we need some assurances that we could still treat the well and some assurances that the water
We still
level
treat the
issue
lake.
would be. Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you.
We can look,
Sorry
I
about
would say we can look into that a little bit more, but, yeah,
But isn't that a DEP call?
Sure is.
it is anyway.
Yeah, that's a DEP call all the way, that's.
Right, but it would be an issue that would affect the voters on May 16th. These are two things that would be issues that will affect
We're
the
not-
voters on May 16th.
We're not gonna get
Yeah,
into,
no, we're not
we're,
doing
we're,
that.
we're being
But hope you
very.
would want me to come to you
No, no,
now.
no,
I'm
no,
talking
no,
about, I don't wanna
no,
have a back and forth
No,
between
yeah.
everybody.
Oh.
That's sorry, that's what I was
Oh.
pointing, we're not gonna have a back and forth, thank you for
No.
the comment.
We're very,
Yeah.
we're pretty loose on our public
Right.
comment, we're trying to give the information we have,
Yeah.
so.
That's a long and short way of saying, Dave, shut up.
Yeah, that's basically,
Yeah. Politely.
but we will, you know what, we understand that concern, and we'll look into it, and,
Thank you.
and see what responses we get.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other public comment?
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like to play? It's a lousy booth and my feet were cramped.
Okay. Okay, so I guess that's it. Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sweet.
Thank you for coming.